In Anthony Doerr's 2002 short story, The Shell Collector, we delve into the solitary life of an unnamed blind conchologist residing with his faithful dog, Tumaini, on a secluded Kenyan isle. His existence takes an unexpected turn when he inadvertently garners global attention for curing a local girl's malaria using the venomous sting of a cone shell. The narrative unfolds with the arrival of two New York journalists, both named Jim, who seek to exploit his story for tabloid sensationalism. Reluctantly, the shell collector accommodates the journalists, providing candid answers to their inquiries. As they spend the night, he begrudgingly allows them to join him on his dawn expedition of shell gathering and identification. Yet, amidst these events, the story delves into the shell collector's past, tracing his journey from a Canadian childhood spent hunting caribou with his father to his eventual blindness. His transformative encounter with an ophthalmologist in Florida marks the genesis of his lifelong fascination with shells. Through touch, he discovers a profound connection with these marine artifacts, surpassing what sight could offer. Learning Braille and immersing himself in the study of shells, he embarks on a maritime odyssey, mastering the art of shell identification by touch alone. Eventually, he attains a doctorate in malacology. Retiring prematurely from academia at 58, the shell collector retreats to his current abode on a remote island in the Lamu archipelago. 2 years prior to the arrival of the New York journalists, he encounters Nancy, an American woman stricken with malaria, washed ashore. Nursing her back to health with the assistance of Dr. Kabiru from Lamu, their bond deepens as they share stories of her spiritual quest and his solitary pursuit of shells. A poignant moment arises when Nancy, in a moment of vulnerability, seeks solace in intimacy with the shell collector, only to be consumed by remorse afterward. Their ensuing argument underscores the weight of her familial ties and her internal turmoil, casting a shadow over their brief but profound connection. Nancy confronts the shell collector, accusing him of escaping from reality. The following day, upon his return from shell collecting, he discovers Nancy in a catatonic state, having been bitten by a venomous sea snail, a cone shell found on his kitchen floor. After 10 harrowing hours, Nancy miraculously awakens, recounting a transcendent experience. Later, she implores him to procure another cone shell for another bite, but he adamantly refuses, ultimately sending her away. She reunites with her family soon after. A week passes, and Dr. Kabiru returns with a Mwadini from Lamu, along with the Mwadini's relatives, seeking aid for the gravely ill Seema, afflicted with malaria. They beseech the shell collector to use a cone shell for her cure, citing Nancy's recovery. Despite his reservations, the shell collector relents under the promise of solitude thereafter. He selects the smallest cone shell and administers it to Seema, who miraculously recovers. Word of Seema's healing spreads, attracting a deluge of visitors to the shell collector's island, many seeking cures for their ailments. They invade his sanctuary, deplete his shell collection, and suffer injuries on the treacherous coral reefs. Despite his repeated warnings about the cone shell's dangers, his counsel falls on deaf ears. While the crowds eventually dwindle, the influx of visitors persists indefinitely. Months later, the shell collector's son, Josh, arrives to stay with him. A compassionate Peace Corps volunteer, Josh's idealism clashes with his father's pragmatism. He takes in 3 orphaned boys, imparting his knowledge of shells and fostering their curiosity for the ocean. Concerned for their safety, the shell collector reluctantly assumes the role of their mentor, fearing the consequences of mishandling the potentially lethal cone shells. One fateful day, tragedy strikes when Josh falls victim to a cone shell's bite, succumbing to its venom. Following a turbulent monsoon, the Mwadini returns, assuring the shell collector of solitude, before escorting the boys to an orphanage. A month later, the 2 journalists, the Jims, reappear, armed with Nancy's authorization to share her tale. The trio embarks on an evening journey to Lamu, where they partake in the ritual of Taraweeh, as explained by a local youth, signifying a moment of divine significance. After midnight, a crab fisherman ferries them back to the island aboard a motorized mtepe, and they disembark to wade through the waters to shore. Lost in the sensory overload of the moment, the shell collector finds himself disoriented, his senses ablaze. When the Jims inquire about the cone snail's sting, he impulsively offers to procure one for them, However, as he hunts for the creature, a wave disrupts his balance, jolting him into a realization of the grave consequences of his actions. Recoiling from his dark impulse, he discards the snail into the waves, only to feel the venom's paralysis creeping through his veins as he is bitten. As the venom courses through him, his thoughts swirl with visions of the sea and icy landscapes, consumed by a chilling sense of solitude. The following morning, Seema discovers him, quietly replenishing his abode with provisions since her own miraculous recovery. With the help of Seema, Dr. Kabaru, and the journalists, they strive to save the shell collector's life, his consciousness drifting amidst dreams of the ocean and frozen vistas. 1 year later, the tale concludes with Seema, Tumaini, and the shell collector on the reef. Seema, now adept at identifying marine life, joins them. Amidst the sands, the shell collector encounters a bulia, a blind species of sea snail, its journey mirroring his own. And so, the story fades, echoing the timeless dance of life and the sea. I hope you found this video enjoyable. If so, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Thank you.